This is Optimus Prime, and you're listening to All Things Transformers.
Hello and welcome to All Things Transformers version 3.0. 3.0, you ask? Yes. So the gist is with this show, I decided I really wasn't done doing Transformers. And I think what made me realize that was when I ended the show, the last 20 or so episodes when we did all the different kind of countdowns and all the different series. And we had an actual topical, fun conversation going. I think that the show kind of peaked for once. It was actually enjoyable again, much like the early days of version 2.0. It hit kind of a dry spell in between. Really didn't know what the hell I was doing throughout part of it. So I'm actually kind of glad that I ended it and kind of got a refresher by going to BotCon this year. And without going back to the episodes, because I can't honestly remember if I did BotCon, I'm fairly certain I did. But the meeting of Frank Welker and John Bailey and Frank Todaro and Derek Talbot, guys that I have either known online or I extremely admire, which is pretty much all of it. I was really intrigued with the show this year in Chicago, and I really had a lot of fun. My brothers went with me. But by going, and I bought some art and stuff, and if I would have had more money, there's no way in hell I would have walked out without a toy, but I didn't have enough for that, and everything else that kind of came up. So, that being said, I decided to revive the podcast before going to BotCon. But I really didn't want to bring it back and make it kind of this aimless show, you could say. And instead of trying to stretch it to like the 1 hour mark and kind of make it insane to record on not only my time but other people's, occasionally I'll do a solo show. For the most part, I'm probably going to try and get a lot of people that I know that like Transformers on. TFG1 Mike, of course, among other people. Just because I really want to talk about some Transformers stuff without necessarily having to do a review show where we're kind of locked in. We're already, through the first season of Transformers Robots in Disguise, which I thought it was kind of an odd name to give it, considering there's already been a Robots in Disguise show, even though it was imported. Which is the 2001 Car Robots. They probably should have just kept it Car Robots, or More Than Meets the Eye, or something, or something. I don't know. I really like this Robots in Disguise show. I know it's made by the same studio that did Transformers Prime, but I'm not a huge fan of the animation. I mean, I've gotten over some of it. I like the designs of the characters. I'm still not a fan of the designs. It's that Tron Uprising show kind of CG, and I wasn't a fan of that either, but the story is good enough for me and the characters are likable enough that I can overlook the animation style. It could be worse to me. I don't like claymation, so it could be worse. So to me, that's probably the best thing going for the show right now. The other thing is I love how they brought Prime back. They got and they kind of let it flesh out and grow without him. I mean, he was here intermittently and kind of like force ghosting to Bumblebee, kind of in the vein of like Obi-Wan, and then he actually comes back. But spoiler for anybody that hasn't seen it, I'm sorry, but So yeah, I mean the show's really enjoyable. I'm looking forward to season 2 and seeing what they do. I'm kind of hoping they bring back uh, Megatron and Starscream and some of those guys, albeit to a lesser capacity. Or it would be fun to actually have the three factions going. The one with um, Steeljaw and his band of renegade Decepticons, and then having Megatron's Decepticons, and um, I'd kind of like some resolution to the Predacon thing from the Predacons movie, and some kind of some more cameos from the season 3 of Transformers Prime characters into this show. Not saying I want them to take a full approach to being back in the show, but I would like to see them kind of sprinkled in here or there, kind of like what they did with Wheeljack, having them kind of show up here or there. So I mean, it would be kind of interesting. That bit aside, I will still be covering some news. It will be very brief stuff. Mostly, it's not going to really be news per se. I'm just going to cover things that I enjoy, that I've seen. Whether they're official toys or not. I really enjoy a lot of the stuff I've seen lately. I think it's a good time to be a Transformers fan. So, jumping into it, I think the biggest thing that I'm looking forward to from Transformers right now is the Transformers Devastation video game. The fighter for Xbox 360, the Xbox One, PlayStation 3 and 4, and the PC. I'm more than likely going to get it for the 360 because I really like fighting games on it. And I like playing the 360 more than I like playing games on my PC, if that makes any sense. Now, for things like Battlefield or first-person shooters and stuff, depending on the game, like Battlefield, I prefer on the PC, on the keyboard and mouse, because I move faster on it. I'm just accustomed to that better because it kind of brings back the days of Doom and stuff. Despite there was no mouse in Doom. But for stuff like this, I'm a fan of it being on the 360. I just like it better. The animation is cel shaded again, kind of like Transformers Robots in Disguise, but it's got the Generation 1 designs to them. So I'm really loving the designs and the way it looks, and hopefully the game plays really well. It's pretty plain as far as like textures and everything. You do have the shine effect and everything, so that's great. But kind of looking at it a little bit more, you get like now they have the Nemesis Prime skin, they have Red Alert skin, they have Goldfire, which it looks like Goldbug with blue instead of the black or whatever. It's like Goldbug. I wonder if they lost the trademark and it's Goldfire for that reason. I'm not entirely certain. But they come with the special weapons that come with them, like the Star Saber or the Disruptor weapon or Gold Hunter weapon. Kind of lame names anyway. But it's DLC if you pre-order it for the PlayStation currently with those skins. The trailers are pretty awesome. They got, of course, Peter Cullen as Optimus Prime in it. They've got Prime, Wheeljack, Bumblebee, Grimlock, Sideswipe. And it looks like those are the key playables. I'm not sure if I don't think Decepticons are playable. I wish they were, because I'd love nothing more than to play as Megatron attacking Prime and so on. So yeah, that's of course that's one thing I'm going to really look forward to. I love fighter games. Dragon Ball Z has been my main fighter game. I would love a Transformers Duke 'em out. It definitely something I'd love to see. Moving on, I've seen some Masterpiece stuff, and this news came out while I was in BotCon. The Masterpiece Optimus Primal, which is supposed to, and Takara showed it off. It's supposed to have the Beast Wars aesthetic to the toy, like actually look like the CG model, which I thought was spectacular. But they showed him in Beast mode, nothing in robot, which is killing me because I really, really want that figure. I only have one masterpiece figure to date, and that is the MP01 Optimus Prime. And I picked it up at Target for $60 when it was new, and I know I've said this before in like our toy discussion in Generation 1 and everything else. And then they kind of skyrocketed. They went way over $100 for all of them since then. And I'm thinking, and I'm hoping that the Optimus Primal, when it comes, is going to be a nice $60, $70 jobber, because I really can't afford $150. I would love nothing more than to have more Masterpiece Beast Wars figures. And if nothing else, I want Masterpiece of the bigger figures, like Primal Megatron, their Transmetal forms, their the Optimal Optimus, the Dragon Megatron, Beast Machines Megatron, where he's the dragon and turns with the cloak. I would love that. I've been talking about that for years, though. I said if they can do a Galvatron and ever do a Galvatron, then of course they're going to do this, and of course, there's Galvatron. So it makes perfect sense. I'm going to be all over that. I currently have the Transformers 30th anniversary figures of like Rat Trap in his plain beast form. I have Rhinox in his plain beast form, or I will have Rhinox. I have him on order, $20. So Amazon, free shipping. Do it. And then I have a Dinobot from the universe from the 25th anniversary where, and mind you, these are in the package. I'm not opening any of these Beast Wars because they're so spectacularly articulated and look just like the show. That Dinobot, though, I can't seem to find a solid price on him. I'm just curious how much he's worth. I've seen, and this is just seeing, I don't know, some places have him for sale for like $70. Which I'd be, don't get me wrong, I'd be fine with if he's worth that. I will never sell it. I'm a collector for me, first and foremost. I have no inclination to sell him or any of the others. I will own those Beast Wars figures. I wish I could have got the 10th anniversary Beast Wars figures when they came out, but unfortunately that wasn't an option for me at the time because I was broke. And it was like $50 or $40 or something at Toys R Us, and now it goes for well over, a couple hundred or something. As far as what I saw at BotCon anyway. I'd love to get those because they're the original Beast forms, as detailed as you can get to the original show. But if they're going to do Masterpiece ones, I'm not even going to bother. I'd rather just get the Masterpiece. My Transmetal Megatron, I have this one joint issue on his arm that part of the chest or the siding where the arm folds in to the chest when he transforms to Dino mode. I've had two of them, and both of them have snapped off in that same spot. Unfortunately, because there's no way to fix them. The way that it shattered the joint, it's just cheap brittle plastic and it's old, so I kind of expected that. But I had to super glue it so it can never transform again, which it really couldn't before because it was broke. So it kind of sucks. I'd love for that to, be scaled taller and have it as Masterpiece. I'm fanboying out about Masterpiece. I love the line. It's just I wish that they'd do some Beast Wars figures because I care for Beast Wars more than all these other lines. And kind of speaking in that same vein, though, they're going to have a Legends Black Arachnia coming out. And it's, from what I've read, it's supposed to be like an extensive remold of the animated Black Arachnia from the, Transformers animated show. The arms and the legs and just the design in general is supposed to be, it's supposed to be the same damn figure, honestly, but it's the Beast Wars coloration. It's got like Black Arachnia's, chest, boobs. Easiest way to say that. And it's got a remolded head, more so in the eye area. It looks spectacular. I'm definitely picking that up. I generally don't collect a lot of the other characters, but being that this is the first Black Arachne to actually look just like Beast Wars, I'm going to have to pick her up. And even if they don't do any of the transmetals for the Masterpiece or some of these, real detailed figures, I'm fine with that. As long as I get fully articulated, fully detailed, all beast forms of all of the Beast Wars figures. I have this new display going on my wall, which I'll probably post pictures of it once I get Rhinox. And I'm starting to put them up on my wall along with everything else, and I need to get some more frames for my posters I bought at BotCon. But I'm a huge Beast Wars fanboy.
Yes, Beast Wars for the win.
But yeah, I really want this Black Arachne to go along with my Rhinox and my Rat Trap and Dinobot. So, moving on from that, not that I wouldn't mind getting the MP10 Convoy Optimus Prime reissue figure, which is shinier, better chrome on it, and more detail from the animated show, which is awesome. They get a Masterpiece Bumblebee to go with it. I wish. I'm poor. I wish I had money. So, an Australian electronics retailer, JB Hi-Fi, provides. They have in stock the 30 Years of Megatron DVD. I'm not exactly sure what that includes. I haven't followed, obviously, any of the Transformers news for the last, year. So, anything like this is kind of new to me. But apparently they've done Optimus Prime and Bumblebee. And this one looks back at all the incarnations of Megatron over the last 30 years. I didn't know that these even were made. They have it for sale for $12.98. The DVD has a total runtime of 125 minutes and is rated PG. I think I might pick that up. If it's not, obviously it's not available for U.S. retailers currently. But if there's a way that I can obtain this and get it and then talk about it on the show, I think this would be a great discussion point. Like 30 years history lessons on these characters. Almost like a Teletran database thing, which kind of reminds me when I had a website called PredicaunEmpire.com. I had plans to do, and I was way out of my depth because I was involved with Transformers Network back when it was originally not dilapidated dust pool on the internet that collects junk ads and has spam on it. And this is not to be confused with the new version, the Transformers Network, which there's a whole history lesson behind that. For that, you'll have to go to the website itself, thetransformersnetwork.com, which I merged Predacon Empire into that because I wanted to rebuild it, but not have it in its full original capacity. It's kind of a mixture of the two, which you'll also be able to have featured this very podcast, as well as across alteredgeek.com and geekcastradio.com. This podcast will be available. But when I was kind of going through that phase, we had toy reviews, we had some articles. There was a lot of media stuff, a lot of fan dub stuff, which again, all that's going to be rolled into the Transformers Network, just like Predacon Empire. But there was an element I wanted to do for the site called the Teletran database, where people could look up information on Transformers. And of course, this was before TF Wiki and any of that kind of stuff. A lot of sites were doing something. I wanted to do a highly graphical version. It was very time consuming. I made it through like 3 characters and I decided to call it quits on the idea. But I think as a podcast, element, like a segment to this show, I think it could be very beneficial and fun to do. So if there's characters you'd like me to kind of go in depth with and kind of feature in a segment of the Teletran database, go ahead and leave a comment in the episode post on geekcastradio.com, or send an email to feedback@geekcastradio.com, subject line altered, not altered, all things Transformers, version 3, or just all things Transformers. I get the two. I've done this on Altered Geek too. I've said all things Transformers in place of Altered Geek. So I do this flub a lot. I think I even did it for the last episode of All Things Transformers I was doing. I did Altered Geek, and then I cut it out. I'm not cutting it here because it's just fun that way. So yeah, I think that would be fun to do. Another thing that I'd like to do is kind of feature a random Transformers song. I'm not going to do it here, but I think it'd be fun to just kind of have a guessing game of who did it and what it is, and could be interesting. I am going to do a review of the Beast Wars comics. I realize that they've been out for years. I think it'd be fun to do in podcast form again in another segment of the show. This show, I'm going to kind of break it up. It's not going to be so much news. It's not going to be so much run-on of everything. I know this episode is kind of more of an update episode with a little bit of stuff sprinkled in and a little bit of the old format. But the ongoing episodes from here on out, I'm planning on doing a lot of segments rather than a lot of run-on. So that also I can kind of split it up. It's easier to manage, easier to digest. You can at least figure out while you're listening if you have to cut off during the show. There's a point where you know you've listened up to, and there's a commercial break, and of course they're going to be very short little snippets. It may just be an audio clip. It just depends episode to episode. So yeah, there's that. Lots of ideas flowing through my head right now. Speaking of Transformers Prime and the earlier conversation in Transformers Robots in Disguise, there's a guy, Augusto Barranco. I hope I'm not butchering that. Anyways, he's a film illustrator who's done some previous work for Transformers Prime. He's shown off some concept art for both Prime and Rid. He's got some concept art for Rid, very sharp looking, but never going to see the light of day, which is sad because they look cool. Original designs, people, and it's actually got a lot of detail. Fun times. A little update on Beast Wars Dark Glass. I know I've had a lot of people asking me about it, kind of talking about it lately. There's a little bit of a dilemma with Dark Glass. The unfortunate part is the guys that were animating it, real life has kind of hit them pretty hard, and plus a lot of stuff's gotten in the way, so not really sure it's going to be out next year. Not sure if it's ever going to get done, which is sad because basically those guys need a lot of help in the animating department. They've got a lot of the models done. They've got some of the animation figured out. All the dialogue has been recorded as of like 5 years ago. Because I was a part of the original casting call. God, I can't believe it's been 5 years. I think I came on board I came on board in 2010. That's sad. But anyways, we did the casting call in 2010. We revealed people in 2011. We did the video with everybody's voice in it. Of course, we've since changed a couple of the actors, and had them record everything after the fact. Namely, Rhinox and there's a couple of hidden characters that aren't in the open that had their lines recorded, but it just kind of depends on if it ever gets done, whether we can kind of divulge. I really wish that we had the help that we needed. I am not a animator or 3D CGI kind of guy. I don't know any of that. I helped cast everybody for the most part, and voice direct and everything else, which is actually more difficult over the internet than doing it if we were in person. But it's up in the air. I still have the website darkglass.com, which if anything kind of comes out of it, you'll know there, or you can look for the Facebook group, Dark Glass Project, where if they do updates, it's there. I really hope that it comes to fruition because they have another project that they'd like to do, but it probably won't get done, just because everybody's, real life gets in the way, so there's a lot of stuff that you really can't plan for. It just kind of happens. Like two of us have had another kid, so it's just, it's been rough. It'll be fun, though, if it ever gets done. I love that script. So, still talking Transformers Red. I know I'm jumping back and forth a lot, and I apologize for that. It's just so much stuff on my mind and that I want to bring up in the show, and then so much stuff that I want to talk about. But I'm trying to keep the show light and a lot less fluff and a lot less junk in it. I'd like to have just more of the stuff that's just fun in general. And so anyways, Transformers Red, there's some figures, like Legends figure of Ultra Magnus. Looks, he's an exact repaint of Prime. Except blue, white, black, and some red spots on him. Looks really cool. I probably won't pick it up. But it looks really cool anyway. I'm hoping that, like I said, we get more of the characters coming back through it. So I think that about kind of just cuts out everything I was planning on. I mean, it's been kind of a short episode, but I had this need to explain the plan of the show. All Things Transformers version 1 and 2, of course, are still available on geekcastradio.com. It's just not feasible to continue that format at this point, and the way I'm kind of seeing this new version is we'll also kind of talk Robots in Disguise in it. In a segment, of course, but in another, kind of in the vein of how we did with Transformers Prime for a little bit. But rather than have a review show specifically set towards that, I'm thinking we might go this route for this show. I mean, it may happen, but it may not. Kind of like how Transformers Prime kind of got put on the back burner for a review show. It just makes more sense to do it this way. If you have any questions on what you'd like to see happen in the podcast or anything that could make it fun and pop out for the future, please feel free to leave comments and suggestions. I am very open to new ideas, especially when reviving a show like this. I was getting emails that people were sad that the original show ended. And to some degree, I was sad too because it was my actual first podcast, which was All Things Transformers, that I ran solo outside of anybody else. And to see it kind of go by the wayside again was kind of sad for me. So bringing it back full circle, and I love the new art. I love it. I figured with version 3, I should change it up, give it a new look. Took some of the Robots in Disguise element for the circle around All Things. I kept the spark in the center. I put All Things in it, and then I put Transformers. It's got a lot of the new Robots in Disguise vibe. And then the bot in the background is actually, on the pod art, is based off of my truck that I had. My 89 GMC S15 pickup, extended cab. And it's... I had it commissioned probably... It had been a year I was broke, but I spent it anyway because I thought it was cool. Josh Burcham, who does Transformers stuff now a lot, he did then too, but he does a lot of it still, was doing something for like a tax time, like he needed some extra money, and he was doing $50 commissions. And I was like, you know what? This is worth it to me. I want my truck being a Transformer. And so I kind of gave him the template of I want him to be like Optimus Prime in robot mode, but have these, and I sent him a picture of my truck, and I wanted these elements of the truck built in. And then I wanted the fusion cannon like Megatron on his arm. And I have so many like copies of it all the way through the process. It just from start to finish, it looks spectacular. He started looking like a Decepticon to begin with, and he went Autobot the other way, which is great. And I love the fade effects and everything else he did on it. But that's my version. That is my Ultimus Prime that I created on some fanfic thing in the late 90s. And then it ended up in somebody's story exactly like how I created it. And they did it in CG. And they had the same name, which I don't think was a coincidence because it was listed on the same site that had some kind of a generator where you can create your own character. And he's supposed to be like a clone of Prime. But more of a war-torn, less about sentient beings and more kind of gritty military, even more so than Magnus. So it was supposed to be that kind of realm. But anyways, enough boring you people with all of my creations and everything that I've got an idea for. But like I said, leave any suggestions, comments, any questions, whatever in the episode post, or send us an email. And you can also get a hold of us on Twitter, which I forgot when I had Predacon Empire, I had a Twitter for it. But I've since renamed that Twitter into All Things TFV3. So it's at All Things TFV3 for All Things Transformers. And if you send that to me, I'll get it, and I'll read it on the show. That would definitely be awesome. So is there any characters that you guys would like to see pop up in Transformers Red as well? I mean, that's, whether old from Transformers Prime or just new characters in general, or see them cross over to another realm of characters or other dimensions. I mean, that's just, have fun with it. Let me know. Comments. Get a hold of me on Twitter at SCP21, and of course you can get a hold of this, just the network in general, at Geekcast Radio, at Altered Geek. I have been Steve Megatron Phillips, signing off.